everyone, hope you're all doing really well. Happy December. I know it's almost over, but yep, this is at the time of me filming this, it is 5 days away from Christmas. So yep, I am excited. But I am more excited to share this video with you. As per my last video, I did some base building tips and I was really in the mood to build something. So this is my take on Santa's workshop. I wanted to do something themed for the Christmas season, or the winter season, but I didn't want to do like, Santa's home or something like that, and I didn't want to do a basic or a super big version of the elves area. I wanted to do my take, which is having this refinery section, as you can see here, where I'm using the lava rock ground. And I'm adding the crystal ground on the outside. I wanted to initially see if the crystal ground would have some sort of snow effect like the dirt ground has, and I'm pretty sure the other grounds have, but the crystal ground didn't. But it does still seem to work with the snow ground that we got from last year's Christmas event. We don't have anything new with this year's Christmas event, but I think that's because we already had the crystal update and then we also had the year-end update, and it looks like we're getting a Lunar New Year update as well according to the roadmap. So yeah, I wouldn't expect much for a Christmas update since mostly everyone would be going on holiday at this point. So yeah, and we got a huge update last year anyways. Like that Christmas update was the most items I've ever seen for one of our updates. So yeah, I wanted to incorporate a refinery into this build so that we would still have the sort of happy-go-lucky area with the workbenches and all that, but also have this refinery section so that, the elves were making the materials to make the toys. Obviously we don't have a section that has flying helicopters and race cars and all this stuff, but I wanted to show that these elves were, working hard and making the materials. But yeah, so this area has a lot of the molten lava from the molten quarries in the desert. I didn't want to have one big pit. There is no open pit here because I wanted to have the elves being able to walk freely everywhere. But I do use some items from the molten sub-biome. So yeah, and do not fear. Those bottom bits at the with the one tiles at the bottom will be fixed. They will be fixed. Your OCD is saved. It's saved because, oh my god, do not worry. It's absolutely killing me right now to look at that, but it is covered up, so we don't have to look at it anymore. But yeah, I am putting a railway around this outside to show that resources are being put in rail carts and being shipped around and eventually shipped to, let's say, other rooms. And yes, it's super frustrating that I can't rotate that, but yeah, I'm glad that I could get the carts in that I wanted to, but yeah, frustrating that I can't rotate them, because there is no way that a cart is going downwards horizontally. Like it's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But yeah, this one section here, I am finally putting the conveyor belts over here, but I was going to originally put some walls there, but the walls were really kind of like sectioning off the light and making it really dark. And for an area that has lava underneath it, it definitely didn't need that. So here I'm putting, I'm using the roof tool to make it look quote unquote more natural. But yeah, I just needed some extra light. And I put the lever there. It doesn't actually do anything for the conveyor belts, but it just looked more accurate. Like there should be a lever there. And this part, this 3-tile object just killed me. I wanted an archway for people to come through. Like there's those 2 tiles where the railway is coming to an end, and I was going to put a long corridor area. Hadn't decided that yet, but you know, I was going to make this archway area, and I wanted to put that 3 tile there, but there was that bucket in the middle, so I couldn't, and it was constantly stopping me. And same with this 2x2, it was just going to be in the middle. So finally I used the 1 tile beams, and it actually works out so well. Like it just looks like it's supposed to be there. And so then I put the 2x2 in the top right corner, and then I end up putting the 3 tiles in by the conveyor belt, and it actually looks a lot more natural. As well as the wheelbarrows, I put the wheelbarrows by the coal pits and also by the conveyor belt and by the rail carts, so that it looks like the elves are carting the coal and whatever back and forth, or the materials back and forth. And I also put this beam up by the rail cart so that it looks like it's, you know, doing something, but it probably isn't. And then I grabbed the molten chests because they go together, and it looks like the molten lava has kind of, you know, aged the chests over time. And these potted plants really went with the vibe as well, so I went with that. And we are grabbing some signs. I wanted to make use of the new signs. I tried out a pillar. It didn't work. It even if I painted it black, it wasn't going to work, so we decided against those. But the arrow signs I really wanted to use because they reminded me of those arrow signs you always see in Santa movies or Christmas movies, where it's like pointing towards the North Pole sort of situation. And I was going to paint them red, but it felt like a bit of overkill on the red. I feel like I was seeing into my future of seeing too much red. But yeah, we went with black because it was a bit easier to go with. A bit easier on the eyes. And I went with that sign next to the coal pit because it just seemed really funny to make a sign that would say coal. Like, as if it wasn't explanatory enough. You had to add a sign that said coal. Like, imagine an elf going up there and being like, oh, what's the sign? Oh, it's coal. Okay, wow, as if I didn't know. Crazy, right? And I put some seeds down because maybe the elves get tired. You never know. Like, we don't see it from the elves' point of view. Or, especially around the coal pit, maybe they need the seat to stand on so that they can reach the coal from inside. But yeah, we are grabbing the anvils here. I actually do end up moving them because I just didn't feel like they fit properly, and where I ended up moving them, it just works with the design a lot more harmoniously. But yeah, at the moment it just feels so squished, and here I am. Yeah, I'm moving it. I hated it there. I hated looking at it. And we do move these rail carts as well as this chest, so that it looks a bit more harmonious, and also it just fits there. Like it's like it was meant to go there in the first place, and the chest looks better to go that way as well. So yeah, now we are looking at grabbing the wash basins, and I felt like maybe like a blacksmith elf was working on using those, or even you could use them for washing your hands before going into the workshop. But we are grabbing the table saw because I wanted it to look like the coal was being sawed down or whatever, so that it could be put in naughty children's stockings. But we do get it working later, and it looks awesome. But yeah, it really looks good. And here we are grabbing the coal to place on the conveyor belt, because I wanted it to look like the saw was working and it was bringing it onto the conveyor belt where it would be picked up with wheelbarrows. And also I'm pausing it so that it's staying on in that one area on the conveyor belt, so it looks like it's a constant process. And obviously I switched around the conveyor belt at the end so that it doesn't keep continuing off the conveyor belt. But yeah, I do like where we get to. That's not the final end there, but yeah, here we are doing the most useless part of my my design, which the only part of this that we end up seeing is the bottom part, which we end up covering anyways. Like the right side gets covered anyways, and the left side half and half gets covered, and it looks cool when I bring up the map later. But this is this gets cut because, like, yeah, it looks nice, but it ends up getting covered with flooring later. So yeah, and same with the snow wall, it gets covered. Like, you don't actually really see it and see it later. So maybe in these other rooms we'll actually see it. But yeah, here's me counting and being like, where should things go? And should I cover the portal? I'm not sure. But yeah, me counting again. I wanted to extend the railways to the outside, so in other rooms as well as in the within this room as well. So yeah, I'm picking the walls for the inside. These walls do change a whole bunch, but these ones stay the same. Like this section here stays the same, minus a few walls near the corridor. But I wanted to make sure this railway coming in was the main entrance. So I had to unfortunately get rid of these signs, but we do still have one arrow sign on inside the refinery. But yeah, here I am extending the railway to these exits, or I guess entrances to other rooms. But yeah, I wanted to have this secret railway system going out and around, but I end up using some walls to hide it so that we don't see it. We just see the most important ones. So yeah, so I'm just going around, and then we get the rest of the walls done, which I think half of this will change anyways, but I'm leaving the sections open for the exits or entrances, I guess. So as you can see, we can no longer see the hidden parts. And I wanted to also make sure I got some windows in using the thin glass. So I use 3 tiles as you can see me counting it out. 3 tiles, as I feel like that's a good amount. 1 is just too little, and then 2 is just, it doesn't work for me. But I grabbed the thick glass, wall glass, because I didn't want to have another layer of the same wall against each other. There was just no point. But yeah, I wanted to make sure that these windows were there so that, you know, the elves could look out into the workshop, as well as the workshop elves could look into the refinery as well. And I do some windows in the corridor as well, so that you can see what's going on, as you know, if you were in a cart coming through and you weren't just materials on a cart, you could see what was going on. Let's say Santa was coming to visit, you know, you'd be able to see what was going on in your own workshop sort of situation. So as we're finishing this up, I think we move on to, I start putting the floors down, and then I realize actually I want to change the walls and change some of the flooring. I have a one track mind. It's crazy. But yeah, I start realizing that I want to change some of the walls that are connected to the refinery, just because it didn't feel right to have like a light wood connect to something already so dark. And yes, I realized that I said something like 3 times there, but sometimes my brain don't work. But yeah, it in terms of the contrast, it just worked so much better, and it didn't seem so bright. And I still want it to feel upbeat and happy, sort of bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, but I also want it to feel like it's within the theme. And yes, I did pick up the coal there and had to put it all down again. I do that multiple times. But yeah, it felt a lot more seamless when I was putting the airy walls down, instead of having that light wood there instead. But yeah, we then think that we're going to continue the light wood flooring, but we don't. We think about it, and then we move on and put the airy flooring down underneath the windows, so that it went with those dark walls. And I'm also putting the airy flooring underneath the railway tracks, so that it looks a little more seamless, a little more together. I don't know the word for that. But I couldn't put them under the glass, the thick glass blocks, so I had to grab the airy flooring. I had to get rid of them, grab the airy flooring, put it down, and then put the glass over top of it. And I didn't want to put the I wanted to make sure that I had all that down, but still grabbed a black paintbrush and painted over top, because it still looked like it wasn't fitting together. So we do paint the glass in a second here. Yeah, there it is. And it just looks like it's meant to be there after that. Almost kind of like a sort of storage area sort of situation. I don't know. But I went to go paint the windows black, and it looked super cool, but the lighting effect that it was doing on the wall behind it didn't work. Like, you can kind of see it when it's just transparent anyways, but it wasn't working for me, and I had to get rid of it. I was a bit sad about it, because the effect looked amazing, but yeah. Moving on, we are messing with lights. So I have the wall light, the wall torches in the refinery section, and then obviously we have the lava as the other light source. But we then use the paintable wall lights, but I just didn't like the spooky vibes that it was giving with it being painted black, and even if it wasn't painted black, it just didn't look good. So I decided to go with the multicolored version, and for some reason I just never used them. I feel like they just didn't work. But in this case, with the airy walls, it seemed to work. And I don't know, like, we used them again later on this back wall, and I really enjoy them. Don't get me wrong, I still love the paintable festive wall lights. As you can see, we're using them here, and we will cut to us painting them, because I'm not making you watch me count out every third tile of and me going back and forth and double check and be like, oh, is that working? But yeah, here we are. We're going with a red and green theme on the outside, and then that back top wall actually is multicolored lights. So we mix it up, just because on these walls we have it is the light wood, so it goes well with the red and green. But the red and green were not going particularly well on the dark walls. But we do a time jump here where I am taking this window out, even though it was my favorite window, and we're putting a door down because I didn't think about where I was going to put a door. Yeah, the railway kind of fudged us there. Didn't think that far forward. And I also realized we don't have any black doors. Like, what the fudge? Where is the black doors? I tried to do the mechanical door, because that seemed to go with it. It was like a dark grey. It was almost black. But instead, I had to say no to that because I had nowhere to put a pressure plate, because pressure plates can't be put over top or underneath a railway. So it was kind of screwed. But yeah, we made do, and we ended up going with the iron door. So we take what we can get. Here I'm putting more of the multicolored lights because they just seem to go with the ones behind them as well, since you can see those ones so clearly. And I was going to go with a switcheroo sort of situation, like back and forth of, I can't even remember the word, but back and forth of the workbenches, but I decided to let them have their own section. And I was going to do this weird chest thing in the middle, but decided against it. Left the hologram there for now, but I think we do end up getting rid of it. But here I use the upgrade station. And I think this is the distillery table. Don't quote me on that. But it looked cool because it had a lever on it. And I had to put the looms in there because it just made sense. And then also having the carpenter's table next to the scarlet workbench seemed to work the best because they both had hammers, and the scarlet workbench was the only workbench that had a hammer on it. So yeah, that was perfect for me. But I originally was going to have it so that these workbenches were against the wall, and then I'd have the tables at the bottom. But one, it was feeling a little squished, but also two, you can't rotate the elves. It just doesn't work. Like, here I am testing the elves and realizing, okay, they're going to have to be placed against the wall, and I'm going to have to place the workbenches in front of them. So we had to move all of this all the way around. I was going to do it with the upgrade table and the distillery table, but I realized that there's no There's no elf actually sitting there, so I didn't actually need to do it. So we ended up just leaving it there and just changing the rest, as you can see here. But I really like putting my elves behind little workbenches and stuff like that to make it look a bit more realistic, even though they're obviously not doing anything. Even their movement, sometimes it looks like it, or when you give them food to work on and they're behind a bench, it does look like they're doing something with it, but yeah, realistically they're not, and it's all for effects. Don't worry, we do rotate these workbenches. I realize that, yeah, I think I realize it here. Yep, I rotate it so that it looks like they're actually working on it, and I feel like it looks so much better once I rotate everything. So yeah, obviously skipping the upgrade table, but so glad that we have this upgrade table, because it fits so well. Same with the distillery table. I think it's the distillery table. Gotta double check that. But yeah, it seems to work perfectly in terms of the red theme. But yeah, I could not for the life of me figure out where to put this second table. I didn't know if I wanted to do an L shape. I didn't know if I wanted to have a wood table. I didn't know if I wanted to have a third table. And yeah, once I figure out where to put these chests, I knew where to put the table. And I tried using 2 hologram pods, but we ended up going with 2 elves instead. And I think that elf gets removed later anyways, but we get rid of the hologram pods because they just weren't doing it for me. But yeah, I go to see if the candles look natural on the ground, and they don't. And when you put them on the table, they're not lit up either, which I think if they were, it would look really nice. But yeah, I do decide to have these tables as a celebratory area instead of a storage area. I was originally going to put items on those tables, and same with the wood table that I ended up removing. I was going to put those there so that we could display items that the elves have created, but I opted for more of a food table, and I assumed they would bring more food because I didn't put that much out there, and went with that because I felt like it would be too overcrowded with more displays of things when we've already got so many workbenches and so much red already. But yeah, I wanted to put some mannequins at the carpenter's table to show what they were working on. Technically, I should have put these at the loom, but I was thinking back in the day when you could create stuff at the carpenter's table. So yeah, I'm a bit silly and I put it at the wrong table, but I feel like it would have been a lot more squished down the bottom at the loom anyways. So I put those gingerbread varieties at the carpenter's table. Guess what? I've said carpenter's table 4 times. Maybe 5, I can't remember now. But yeah, I put these pedestals with the different presents on them, and also the pedestal with the snow globe to show that this is what they'd be working on at the Scarlet workbench. And I was going to put the gingerbread chest on there, but it just didn't really fit right. So I opted for those presents instead. And I tried to make sure that it was green as well, to try and get some color variety, but it just didn't really work. So yeah, I grabbed some more elves to show that there are actually elves in this workshop, and I do place some elves later in the refinery. But here I am grabbing some fireworks to see what goes where. And I end up using only one of the smaller fireworks by this elf here, and then we grab the bigger firework to put down by this other elf, this green elf where the first elf used to be. So yeah, then I decide I wanted to have a sign, good old sign, and I put it by one of the chests and called it Santa's Workshop. I was originally going to make it red, shock horror, but it was too much. It was too much for my brain, and I had to remove it, make it green because it was too much. And as you can see, I have walked past this conveyor belt one too many times and picked up all the coal, so I do end up replacing it later. But yeah, I'm not even sure if there's some in the screenshots, to be honest. Yeah, so we are finally moving on to this bottom section. Oh, and we are making the ever controversial ice skating rink. And it's controversial because of the blue grounds line that I'm using. So basically, it's slippery. Yes, when you walk over it, it's slippery. And we use the glass floor to put over top of it to make sure it's still slippery and it's not just ground slime. But yeah, people don't like that blue slime spawn from it. And that's the only downside. However, there is a solution. Do not fear. There is a solution. So you put the glass floor on top so that you have some sort of traction. It's still very slippery, but some sort of traction there. And then you just have to either have a day at the shooting range or put the king slime set on, and then you'll be dandy and you can just chill with the blue slimes. None spawned here because obviously I paused my world, but yeah, I have had it before where it does spawn the blue slimes and they just chill on the outside. They go to the farthest edge anyways, so it's not like it's a big deal. But here I am painting my loose flooring so that it looks like little bits of snow on the path, and I tried to paint while it was under the fence, and obviously it didn't work, so I learned my lesson on the left side. Didn't learn my lesson. Yeah, I didn't realize on the right side. But the Gleamwood fence really works here. It gives a bit of light as well as really fitting in with that kind of snow white bluish theme that we're going for. But I'm grabbing my decorations that we got from the Christmas event last year, and I wanted to have some snowflakes on the walls because we don't have any snowflakes on the ground. Although those like petals and daisy floorings that we got for different events, if we had snowflake flooring is something that would be super cool, super cool. Just a little thing to put out there. Thank you very much. But yeah, I really like these snowball pyramids that have the lights in them, and the different kinds of snowmen that change position based on where you place them are just really funky. But I wanted to do something with the Gleamwood flooring. Don't ask me what I wanted to do, but it got way too bright way too quickly, and yeah, I had to scratch that idea. So instead I went for a bit more of a natural scene. I end up grabbing a campfire and also some, oh, small voice crack there, also some throw pillows, I think. But here I wanted to put the loose flooring down on the crystal ground because I wanted it to look like some snow had like fallen there, and make it blend in more with the snow ground. But I really like the teal color that is like shining through the loose flooring. It really like gives a nice little gleam. And I wanted to put these loose flooring on the snow ground as well, so that it looks like there's more of like clumps of snow in places as well. So yeah, I was going to put some rugs down, and then I was like, rugs on snow, I don't think that works. But here we are grabbing the potted mold pom-poms and also the mold trees that we can use later. But I'm putting the campfire down. I couldn't figure out where I wanted to put it. I placed it a whole bunch of other times, but I cut that out so you didn't have to see me do that. But we do a big star of throw pillows, and I end up moving this snowman. I didn't end up having to because I did a smaller area of throw pillows, and I get rid of the outside areas. So, damn, that snowman could have stayed. But I guess I saved it from melting in the campfire. But yeah, we are putting down some of the trees now. When I put them too close to the walls, it kind of like collided and did a weird thing with the lighting, so I couldn't do that. But where I end up putting them, it really worked, and I put them on the right side as well. But we are coming to the end of the video now. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please leave any feedback you have down in the comments, and I hope you have an awesome holiday and enjoy the screenshots. Goodbye, everyone.